Hey, what up world? It's your boy the Made Man, also known as Ian Bellina. Welcome to Hacking the System, the show where I teach you how to make six figures in your 20s. In today's episode, I'll be showcasing how to turn your passion, your hobby, into a full-fledged side hustle where you can make up to 7 grand a month. This is not something I'm just talking about in terms of theory. This is actual practical application, something I've done myself. I'm a former freelancer. I had a video production company that I was able to build from the ground up to a point where I was making anywhere on a slow month from 2 grand a month to a very busy month making 7 grand a month on the side, only working after my 9 to 5 job, only working on the weekends. Right, so my name is Ian Bellina, as I mentioned before. I'm also the author of the book, The Complete Freelancer Guide, which is available on Amazon, Barnes& Noble, anywhere online where books are sold. I'm also the founder of Peer Hustle, a local on-demand freelancer marketplace application currently out in the App Store. So I live and breathe freelancing, right? I'm pretty much an expert in this field, right? So in today's show, I'll showcase how you can get your hobby, doesn't matter what hobby it is, what passion it is, and how to monetize that and turn that into a side hustle that makes you money. Up to $100 per hour, guaranteed if you execute on all the advice I'm about to give you right now. With that being said, let's get into it. Hey, what up world? This is your boy the Made Man. Welcome to Hacking the System, the show where I teach you how to make six figures by any means necessary while you're still young. Create the lifestyle of your dreams and hustle to greatness. Alright, so you're probably watching this video because you saw the title was catchy, how to start a new side hustle, get your hobby, and convert that into a business that makes you up to $100 per hour. I say this because I'm a freelancer. I've been a freelancer for a while. I founded a Fusion video production company, a video production company based in Washington, D.C. as a side hustle. I have a day job where I work at IBM, working in IT and sales. So I just wanted something where I could be very creative, because in my job I'm very technical, right, working in IT. I wanted an outlet that lets me be creative, but also an outlet that lets me make money on the side. So in today's show is for anybody out there who has a hobby and is not really trying to go out there and start their own business full time, but they want to start monetizing that skill set they have, that hobby, that passion, and turning that into an actual business on the side that makes good money. Because with me, I was able to turn my side hustle. I recall 1 month I was able to make more money after taxes on my side hustle, working only basically 2 weekends, about 2 full days, than my full-time job at IBM. Right, so I made 7 grand 1 month from only 2 clients, and that was much more money than I made at IBM after taxes. So this is the power of executing on all the advice I'm about to give you right now in terms of turning your hobby into a side hustle. So with that being said, the first thing to start with is starting with a hobby. So the first step to making money with a side hustle, the step that I recommend the most, is start with a passion, something you love, a hobby you love, right? Get a hobby you love, because it will make everything much easier. Because when you're out there after your 9 to 5, when you come back working all the way till midnight, you still have that motivation because it's something you love. It's something you love to do, right? So with me, I began as a videographer, and I picked videography for a particular reason because I was a travel blogger. I was a vlogger. I would travel different places, and I would just film video on my iPhone, right? On my I have it over here, right? I would just go different places, film video on my iPhone, and then I would edit the video, right? I loved editing video. So I was a travel blogger for about almost 2.5 to 3 years before even turning this hobby I had into an actual side hustle, right? I would just had a blog, I'd go there, do video, I'd edit the video. I would basically make like travel music videos of me going different places and do different montages. And I loved the process of editing video, of putting video together and basically adding my own creative spin and flair to things, right? So just from the process of doing that, it came to a point where I was on YouTube, took a hiatus off of YouTube, but I wanted to come back, right? Kind of start a channel like this. But I told myself, I don't just want to come back and do videos with my iPhone. I wanted to do it big, on a big stage, grandiose, right? And I said, I want to have a professional camera, But it didn't really make sense having a professional camera when I'm just doing videos for YouTube. I was just a travel vlogger, right? So I told myself, how can I justify spending 3.5 grand, almost 4 grand on professional camera equipment just for YouTube, right? Because I was an amateur video person, right? And I couldn't really justify it. But one of the things about making money and being a hustler is that whenever you have an obstacle, you don't really say you can't do something. You always try to find a way, right? So with me, it wasn't, hey, I can't spend 4 grand on camera equipment. I asked myself, how can I afford it, right? Not I can't afford it, but how can I afford it? And from just thinking about it for a while, I said, hey, you know what? What if I treat this as an investment? What if I buy this expensive camera and I turn this into an actual side hustle business and make the money back? So this leads to step number 2. Invest in the right tools. If you're going to turn your side hustle, your hobby or your passion into a side hustle or business, you have to invest in the right tools, in the right materials, right? The tools of the trade, what professionals use. You're going from being an amateur to being a professional or semi-professional, right? So your tools cannot be amateurish. They have to be either professional or as close to professional as you can, right? So with me, like I mentioned, right, I kind of had this mind shift where I said, okay, I'm going from being an amateur person just doing videos for YouTube to how can I afford expensive camera equipment to become a professional YouTuber? And the best way I could think of that was, what if I treat this as an investment? I invest in getting the right tools, the right tools that professionals use. So I ended up purchasing a Panasonic GH3 at that time and a Panasonic GH4 camera. That's actually a 4K camera. So I was going all in. And if I recall, I purchased everything on a credit card. I didn't really need a credit card, but it was just kind of as a great way to kind of give myself some security. So I basically got a credit card with no interest for 1 year, for 12 months, right? So I could just purchase some equipment and see if I ended up getting my money back. And the way I kind of planned everything out was that I would purchase equipment, go out there and start working as a freelancer on the side, and all I had to do was just break even, recoup the costs, the investment in my professional equipment, right? So about 3.5 to 4 grand, and that was the goal. So I invested in that. I also ended up, so once I committed to becoming professional in order to make the money back in that equipment I was buying, I also invested in a professional website. So that was very simple to do. I have a background in making websites, but it was just a simple WordPress web page I put together, and I put that together in about a few days or so, basically 2 days. Just purchased a theme on sites like ThemeForest or just any professional website where you can purchase WordPress themes. Got a domain name, and just put up some pictures and a contact page. I mean, most people weren't going to my site yet, but it was just a way to kind of give myself that professional look and feel. Right, so I got my hobby of making travel videos and that need of wanting to get more professional equipment. And I was able to parlay that into a side hustle to pay for my professional equipment. So that's how I began freelancing. The third step to turning your hobby into a side hustle is learn something new every single day. So with me, although I had been a video blogger for almost 3 years, I didn't really have any kind of professional or even semi-professional training making videos. It was just, all I knew was just how to make videos on my iPhone and edit them, right? So once I committed from moving from being an amateur to a professional or semi-professional, I knew I had to go out there and learn the space, learn my craft, right? Not just from the amateur point of view, but from the industry perspective. So the first resource I leveraged was YouTube, right? Kind of like what you guys are doing right now. And I committed to watching at least one YouTube video every single day for 1 year straight on my particular space, right? So in this case, it was videography. So I subscribed to multiple channels out there, like Dave Dugdale, DSLR video, right? B&H photo video. I'm probably subscribed to like 20 different video channels, and I would watch minimum one video a day. So just think about that, right? Imagine one video is about 5 to 10 minutes, right? Let's say one video is 10 minutes. So I was watching 10 minutes minimum per day for 365 days straight. Imagine the amount of knowledge you attain after 1 year, right? So it gave me a great perspective where I was able to learn very, very, very quickly. And it was all free, right? So if you're out there and you have a particular hobby you want to turn into a side hustle, you have to go out there and educate yourself on what people out there in your space are doing and different methods and tactics they're using. Right? And all this is free, so there's no reason for you to make any type of excuse about, hey, you don't have access to the information. You can go out there and get everything free on YouTube. YouTube is a very underrated resource. The second resource I would say are learning sites, right? So I also ended up using sites like lynda.com. You can find other sites out there like Udacity, right? So you can go on sites and download courses or take online courses in your particular skill set that you're trying to turn into a side hustle. So with me, I got 2 courses off of lynda.com, and they basically covered videography, right? And they were great in the sense that they were the first time I learned videography where everything was compiled into something that was from point A to point Z in a particular strategic order, right? Because on YouTube, the issue with YouTube is that you're kind of putting together everything piecemeal, right? Everything's scattered, random. It's not really organized into something where somebody can just kind of learn very quickly. So the good thing about courses is that it lets you learn everything in a very organized manner that increases you retaining the information. So I highly recommend the courses on lynda.com and Udacity or whatever, right? So if you have a skill out there or passion you want to convert into a business, that's one where you can do that, right? So let's say you want to convert, maybe it's writing, copywriting, or web design, right? Or maybe making mobile applications or games, right? You can go out there and watch videos on YouTube. You can even subscribe to podcasts. You can take online courses, right? But learn something new every single day, because once again, you're going from being an amateur to a professional. The next step is build your portfolio. So while you're learning something new every single day, you have to actually go out there and practice the stuff you're learning. You can't just be all theory, right? You have to execute it and take action. So with me, I was watching at least one video on YouTube or lynda.com or whatever every single day. So basically learning something new every single day. Then at least once a week, I would go out there and execute and apply the stuff I learned, right? So with me, since I was doing video and I had no portfolio, since my portfolio initially was just my travel videos, I had to go out there and get other type of stuff to add to my website. I committed to going online and finding local DC events in the region, and I would go there and just film stuff for free. So I would just go on events web pages, find festivals, find fashion shows, find mayor debates, just find all types of different events. I'll go there and film the stuff for free to build my portfolio, right? And I'll do that at least once a week. So after I did that for pretty much 6 months straight. So imagine watching something on YouTube or learning something online on lynda.com, going out there and applying it once a week, right? So it allowed me to go and test and learn everything I was learning in the actual real world. Because the issue most people do is they learn something, but they don't really apply it. And it was a great way for me to go out there, learn and fail, learn from failure, right? So I would film something on video, and I would say, hey, okay, so now I understand what they meant on this thing I learned last week, right? Because now I'm actually doing it. Or maybe I learned something new that they missed and didn't cover. So now I go back and I search on YouTube on how to do this, right? So I was able to go out there very, very quickly and apply everything I'm learning and learn even more. The next step is build social proof. In marketing and branding, there's a term called social proof. Social proof means that people vouch for you. You have credibility, right? So with me, since I was trying to move from being an amateur to being a professional and semi-professional, I had to go out there and build some particular type of credibility. And I did that by leveraging social proof, right? So social proof is basically the notion that if somebody is out there on the street and has to decide between going to one restaurant or the other restaurant, Are you going to go to the restaurant that has nobody in, that's empty, that only has one or two people in it? Or are you going to go to the restaurant that's busy and flowing with people? It has lines, right? Because one restaurant is in demand. So the idea is that it's in demand for a particular reason, right? That's social proof. Right? One other principle of social proof is if you go on sites like Amazon or Yelp, right, books with lots and lots of reviews, they're more credible. It gives that perception of credibility, right? It's not always the case, but in terms of when it comes to marketing, one of the things you have to learn is sometimes perception is reality, right? So with me, I had to build a portfolio that I could kind of share with potential clients and say, hey, these are the big names and big brands I've worked with. Now, since I wasn't that great, I was starting out, I was still an amateur. One of the great hacks of building social proof is to work for free, right? People underestimate this concept. So with me, I was going out there and doing an event once a week, right? So I mentioned I was filming an event once a week, but it came to a point where I'll find the big events or the big companies and just email them saying, hey, my name is Ian Belina. I'm the founder of Fusion Video Production, and I would like to come to your event and have access to film and give you guys the video for free to share on your website or on your social media platforms. Right, and it's not going to work for everybody, but it was working pretty well. To a point, I got access to some big names, right? So I think the first thing I did was I first went to DC Fashion Week, and just by being having a video production company, I got access to filming behind the scenes. So I ended up filming different types of video, which they're able to share on their social media sites. So I kind of built my credibility in that space. Then I ended up filming Nancy Pelosi, a congressperson in DC. She had a talk in DC, ended up going there. It was a free talk, but now I can say I've worked with Nancy Pelosi, right? She was a former minority leader in the House, right? Then from kind of partnering with the DC pageant community, I was able to just basically volunteer to film their events for free, right? The different pageants. So I filmed the Washington Miss DC pageant, the Miss Maryland pageant, the Miss Virginia pageant. All this was pretty much for free or for very, very, very low rates eventually down the line, but initially it was free, right? And it came to a point where I became the official videographer for Miss DC. Now that was vital because it gave me access to all the events she was attending. So all the events they would attend, they would invite me to come and film for them. And this was all free. I would basically edit the video, do all the work, then they'll take the video and promote that on their social media channels. Then it came to a point where I was working with Miss DC, and she had an event for the Washington Redskins. It was for Pierre Garçon. Pierre Garçon's Boys and Girls Club fundraiser for his charity. And all the Washington Redskins players were there. RG3 was there, Kirk Cousins was there, even NBA players, John Wall was there, a bunch of different local DC professional athletes were there. So by partnering with her, it gave me access to these events. So I got interviews with John Wall, NBA All-Star. I got interviews with Kirk Cousins before he blew up. I got pictures and video of RG3 when it was still kind of almost starting, right? So I was able to put all this content into my portfolio. Like Nancy Pelosi, Miss DC. I also ended up doing free work for Yelp because they had a party where all the top Yelpers in the local DC region would go. People who leave very good, high quality reviews. So I was able to get all these different big names and brands into my portfolio, and it was all free work. Right? But I was building that foundation that eventually would let me charge very high rates. All right, so after doing that for about 3 to 6 months, but just to be on the safe side, I would say 6 months, right? So go out there, learn something new every single day. YouTube, podcast, lynda.com, Udacity, whatever, right? Go out there once a week, execute on those principles, and get real world feedback. Practice what you're learning, right? And as you're doing that, start to kind of pay attention and volunteer to do work for big names and brands and events in your local area to build social proof and build your portfolio up. Right? So after a while, once you have a credible portfolio, you can now start charging for your work. Right? So now you're going from being an amateur to a semi-professional, to a professional. right? So when I say start charging for your work, don't just pick a random price, right? So with me, I wanted to initially start out low, right? Because I was going from being free to now trying to monetize and make money from this. So what I did is I first did market research. So I went online and found the top 5 companies on Google in my region for video, right? In this case, it can be whatever skill or hobby you're turning into a side hustle. Just find the top companies, maybe the top 10 companies on Google or whatever, and contact them via phone and email and pretend to be a client, pretend to be a prospective customer who's going to buy for them, and just see how they treat the customers. What's their process like? How much do they cost and charge? Right? So from doing this, I was able to learn that the big names charged in terms of video production, they charged about anywhere from 5 grand an hour or more, right? Because I called one video company pretending to want them to film 1 hour talk for me, and they quoted me 5 grand. It was like I actually think it was like 7 grand, and I almost felt out of my chair because the price was so high, right? But I was like, okay, this is why they're professional. This is a company that's kind of doing some Hollywood type stuff. So they work with very, very big names, very big companies. So I got an understanding of the high end of the spectrum, but I also got an understanding of the low end of the spectrum. So I was able to learn that amateur freelancers, people who are relatively new or who didn't really know how to market themselves, were charging anywhere from about $25 an hour, with the high-end freelancers, not the professional video companies, but the high-end freelancers, charging about $75 an hour. So since I knew I was kind of relatively new and still learning the space in terms of actually committing to this on a semi-professional manner, I chose to start off at the bottom, right? So you have to walk before you can crawl. I mean, you have to crawl before you can walk, right? Before you can run, but before you can fly, right? So I was taking baby steps. So I went from working for free to starting at the lowest price of the market. So based on my market research, the lowest price was $25 per hour. So I started charging people $25 per hour. And I did that till I got about anywhere 5 to 10 clients, paying clients. And the thing you learn very quickly is that it's totally different working with somebody when you're doing free work for them and they're actually paying you to provide a service. And the thing I learned is people are more critical when they're paying for something. And I learned so much because there was so much I didn't know when I was working for free, because when you mess something up, the person isn't really going to be critical of you because they didn't pay you. Right? So working with those first 5 to 10 paying clients, I learned so much. But also in addition to that is I discovered things that I wasn't noticing when I was working for free. Right? So for example, I was editing a video, and I began to notice the subtle details in the audio quality that I didn't really notice when I was working for free. To a point, I realized that hey, some equipment I have is not that great, so I have to get better quality equipment. So I ended up getting even more equipment, right? So once I began charging for these things, I began to pay attention to detail, and so did the clients, and I was able to learn. So I'm not gonna lie, there was definitely lots of failure during that time because it was a learning process. But the cool thing about it was I was being paid to learn, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but who doesn't like being paid to learn on the job, right? So it's basically on the job training I was being paid to do, and I didn't initially. It was a struggle, but I was being paid to learn, right? And customers couldn't really complain that much because once again my prices were the lowest in the market, right? I was at the low end of the market. It wasn't like I was charging crazy prices, right? So it allowed me to have some room for failure. All right, so next step. After I did that, so after I built my portfolio, built that social proof, and began getting my first paying clients, right? By starting out at the bottom of the market in terms of the price. After those first 10 clients, I would say, I began to get picky, right? Because I've kind of had some experience working with clients. I know what they need, what they don't need. I've had experience interacting with them. I've gone through the entire process of getting a lead, converting that lead, right, closing that lead, then service after that, after you work with them, right? So once you have that experience, you can kind of start to realize, okay, I don't like working with these type of clients. I like working more with these type of clients. And when you have paying clients initially, it's good to just kind of try everything out and just kind of learn. But after a while, you start to realize, okay, I'm charging them bargain basement prices and they still have these crazy demands, or I'm charging them bargain basement prices and I'm not really getting that much quality in terms of clientele. So the thing I realized quickly was that the type of clients I was working with, that is prices, were not clients I wanted to work with. They're people basically shopping for discounts. So after a while, I basically increased my rates because I was able to be picky. Because now I had some experience, I had more portfolio content from working with clients that I could now start to double my rates. So I basically went from $25 an hour to $50 an hour. And I did that just basically because I began to value my time because I still had that day job. I still had a 9 to 5. And it came to a point I was like, okay, you know what? I'm now at a point where if I'm going to drive all the way to DC, which for me is like half an hour, 45 minutes to film for this client, I expect it to be worth this particular amount of money for me, for it to be worth my time, right? So I kind of, after a while, I got kind of picky, and that's how I went from $25 an hour to $50 an hour. The next step is double down on what's working. So once I increased my rates from $25 an hour to $50 an hour for doing video production, the next step was to double down on what's actually working in terms of promotional channels. All right, so I basically just did a 80-20 analysis of my business. This is called Pareto's Law. All right, so I figured out, okay, what particular channels are bringing in the most clients? And for me, it turned out to be Yelp.com, which is a local review site for things like local places, events, restaurants, businesses, what have you. Right, so my space in terms of video production, that was the best channel for getting leads. Most of my leads, I think like 75% of my leads were coming from Yelp. Right, it was not Google, it was not SEO, it wasn't even really word of mouth. Word of mouth was more just for the free stuff I was doing. But in terms of the actual paying clients, because I went out there, put my business on social media, right? I was on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Yelp. Put my business in different directories: Yahoo, Google, Local, whatever. But Yelp was the best one. So now that I was starting to get some paying clients, I doubled down. I took a gamble, and at this point in time, I was nervous about this, but I signed up for Yelp advertising. And with Yelp advertising, in terms of when you do research online, the people don't really have that favorable opinion of it, which taught me to not trust everything you read online, right? Trust what you know and what's worked for you. So it was a pure experiment. I said, okay, I know Yelp's working for me, and I'm not even paying money right now. What if I paid for advertising? So I paid for Yelp advertising. It was a 3-month contract upfront. So I committed for 3 months, and I'm not even sure what the pricing was. I think it was like $300 a month. So it was a big investment, right? But to my surprise, it was the best investment I ever made as a amateur videographer trying to go professional or semi-professional, because by simply paying for Yelp advertising, I was able to increase my leads by 3 or 4 times. Right, I got 3 or 4 times the number of people inquiring for jobs, and I ended up getting better quality jobs, right? Because I increased my prices. Right? I ended up getting big names like USAID, nonprofits, congressmen in DC. I was filming on Capitol Hill, so I got all these different names, big names coming in, because my brand, my company was all over Yelp. Right, I was to a point where I was advertising on other people's listings as well, right? So I was pretty savage with it, right? But it was a very beneficial investment that started out as an experiment and began to work. Once it began to work, I just ended up extending the contract for the advertising, right? Because it was basically 3-month contracts. Ended up getting, I think, I was doing it for over 2 years of Yelp advertising because it was that good. So double down on what's worked. In your space, it could be totally different. Maybe it's Google ads. Maybe it's Facebook ads. Maybe it's just word of mouth. Maybe it's doing collaborations, right? So whatever is bringing in the most paying customers, double down on that, right? Basically throw gasoline on the fire. Once you reach a point where you're getting lots and lots of paying clients, you've doubled down on what's working in terms of the marketing channels, the next step to do is increase your rates again. This may shock you, but you have to keep on increasing your rates. I got this idea from watching Grant Cardone. Shout out to Young Hustlers. And he basically just said that most people undercharge for their services. Most people don't really value their services. So he said, just double your rates. And as an experiment, I doubled my rates. So I ended up going all the way. So I went from $50 an hour to $100 to $75 an hour, then from $75 to $100 an hour, right? So basically, whatever rates you're charging, right? Because we ended up from doing your market research, right? In earlier, as I mentioned in earlier videos, right? You start off at the lowest point of the marketplace. Just keep on increasing your rates after a while, right? So I went from $25 to $50, then to $75, then to $100. And the idea is that you keep on increasing your rates. This is after you've done all the stuff in the other videos, right? Don't just go out there without any portfolio and just charge the highest price because you won't get any business, right? So after you've done the social proof and everything, keep on increasing your pricing to a point where until clients stop contacting you, right? So with me, I kept on increasing my pricing until customers stopped inquiring for business to hire me, right? So once you've reached a particular point where you aren't getting any customers inquiring, then go back down to the last level where you had a steady stream of customers inquiring for your services, right? So in this case, if you try $75 an hour and you're still getting emails and phone calls or people wanting to hire you, keep on increasing the prices. Try $100 an hour. If you still get clients, try $125 an hour. If you get no clients at $125, go back to maybe $110, $100, right? So you keep on trying to find that sweet spot where you're getting a good streaming flow of customers wanting to hire you for your services. And the way you test this or measure this is by how many clients actually book you. Not based on how many inquiries you get, because you may have a high price and get lots of inquiries, but nobody's actually committing to it, right? So measure based on how many people actually buy your services. After a while, when you're getting lots and lots of paying clients coming in, right? Because you've been following my methods of starting out low and keeping increasing your pricing until you reach a point where customers stop inquiring. Then you go back to the last level where you had a steady stream of customers inquiring. Now the next step to pretty much take your business to the next level is make it simple for clients to hire you for your services. I got this principle once again from Grant Cardone, and the idea is that customers don't like choice. Customers like things to be simple. So with me, I was charging customers by an hourly rate, and this made it almost unpredictable for them in terms of how long it would take. I mean, with video, it's still somewhat predictable because if you know an event is going to be it's going to be X amount of hours long, you kind of have an idea. But what made it difficult was that I have video filming costs for customers, but I also have costs for editing the video. But what helped was I made it easier for customers to hire me by creating by packaging my services. So it came to a point I went away from having that hourly rate to having a 3-hour rate, a half-day filming rate, and a full-day filming rate. Right, so those were basically 3 hours, 6 hours. I think 5 or 6 hours, and about 9 or 10 hours, whatever. Right, but I basically just made 3 package services. So when clients inquired about filming, I would just only give them those pricing for those packages, so they had less choice to choose from. And this made me so much money. You have no idea, right? And I would only give them customized pricing if they inquired or made that a stipulation to get their business, and if they were a big customer that I had to get, right? But this was vital because there were some customers who only wanted 1 hour filming. I would tell them my lowest package was the 3-hour filming package, and they'll still pay for that, right? And I made so I was able to basically give them, they would buy up to 3 hours of filming, right, for the price of, when they only wanted 1 hour filming. Right, so imagine the margin on that. Then I was also able to package and provide better quality service in the sense that prior to that I was charging customers to film per camera, right? Because at this point I had two cameras I was filming with, and I ended up bringing in my brother to help film and stuff. So I had a second camera person, right? So initially I would charge customers for having two cameramen with two cameras, and some customers would take it, some customers wouldn't take it. But once I began to package my services, I told them, hey, you get access to all of this. You get two cameramen with two cameras for up to 3 hours of filming. This includes editing as well, right? And I would basically just keep on adding, and the pricing was a lot more profitable than me if I just sold those services individually, right? So by having those packaged services, so for example, if a customer hired me for a full day filming or a half day filming, right, my pricing was for, I think the 3 hour filming was 1,500. The half day filming was $3,000, and the full day filming was 4,500, give or take, right? Some additional costs here and there. But I mean, imagine somebody hiring you for 1 day making $3,000. I mean, for half a day making $3,000, full day making like 4,500, $5,000 or whatever, right? Like that's how I was able to, in 2 months. I mean, in 1 month, from only 2 paying clients, make $7,000, right? Which was a lot more than my job after taxes, my 6-figure job at IBM. I did that from packaged services, by packaging my services, giving customers less choice, making it a lot easier for them to hire me for my services. The last step to turning your hobby or your passion into a profitable side hustle that you make money off of is to, once you've done everything I've talked about in my prior videos, automate your business and scale your business out. Right? This gives you more freedom to do other things, so you don't have to spend so much time managing your business. So with me, after, I would say it was probably after the first year, so probably a year and a half, 2 years into it, I began to grow my business. So I brought my brother in to be a second camera person, which allowed me to charge clients more rates, right? As I mentioned in the earlier video. And I was also able to provide better service for my clients. Then the next thing I did was I hired freelancers, other freelancers from online, right? So before that, I was editing all the video myself. And this was very time consuming because I had a job and I didn't have time to do all of this. So I just went on sites like Upwork.com or what have you, and I got other editors. I ended up getting 2 video editors that I worked with. So my process was basically I would go to an event, or to a client's event or whatever. Let's say a client hired me for an event. I would film that event, come back home, upload the video to Dropbox, then send the Dropbox video to my editors. I had one editor who was based in North Carolina, and the second editor who was based in San Diego, California. Right, so I had 2 editors, and these were professional editors just freelancing on the side, and their rates were actually pretty low. Right, one guy was actually a graduate of USC Film School, which is like the Harvard of filmmaking. Right, but he was only charging $25 an hour to edit. Now, mind you, I was charging my clients $75 an hour to edit film. Right, so at this point, I was charging $100 an hour to film a video, and for each hour of video, I would charge, if it was one camera, I would charge them I would charge them basically 3 times the cost of editing per 1 hour, right? So basically, for every 1 hour of filming, I would charge them 3 hours of editing. That was the estimate I'd give them, right? So if I had 1 hour at $100 an hour, I would also add in an additional cost of $75 an hour for 3 hours to edit the film. Right? So I had a $15 margin on editing costs, right? Which was pretty good, pretty profitable, right? So my editors, I'd send them the video footage. Their rates were, for some people they're high, $25 an hour is high, but to me, I was making money because the customer's paying $75 an hour. So I'm basically playing middleman, right? Making $50 margin for not doing much, right? So I'll just go out there, film the video, send them the raw footage, then just continue with my other stuff, my other entrepreneurial ventures. Then I was even making more money when I had 2 cameras, right? Because I'll charge them, I believe, I'll charge them for every 1 hour of filming, I'll charge them 4 hours of editing when there are 2 cameras filming. But this was very, very profitable, right? So I was able to scale my business and automate this. Now, the issue I did have though with some freelancers is that since this is not their business, they didn't really keep track of time, right? So, for example, I may film raw footage and send it of a client and send them the footage, and the client is expecting the footage in a week or in 2 weeks, and the freelancers would take 2 weeks or 3 weeks or forever to edit the footage, to a point sometimes I'd have to I would end up doing the footage myself because the freelancers weren't really responsive. So that's one issue you may have when you try to grow your business to other freelancers and bring other people in, right? But it was very good for me because having my brother in allowed me to basically have more freedom, have provide better service, and bringing in the freelancers allowed me to basically free up my time to do other things. All right, so that was a lot of game I've given you guys in terms of how to turn your hobby into a full-fledged side hustle and business where you can make up to $100 an hour in less than 1 year, in less than 12 months. Right? This is practical application, stuff I've done myself, real-world execution, not just some theory I read in a book. Right? So this is stuff, if you go out there and you execute on everything I've mentioned today, I guarantee you, if you execute on this, you can make money from your hobby by turning this into a business. Because I know with me, and the biggest revelation I had, as I mentioned earlier, is that there was one particular month where I made 7 grand from just 2 clients from only working 2 days. Right, so I basically went there, filmed the raw footage with my brother. It was a conference. It was a law conference, right? And the other one was a corporate event. Because one thing I kind of forgot to mention is that when you double down on what works, one thing I learned was that I was making lots of money doing corporate video. And so I ended up just becoming almost purely just doing mainly corporate video because that's where the money was, right? So follow the money, right? So I had 2 clients filmed for 2 days. Once I got the raw footage that I filmed with my brother, just give that footage to my editors. They did all the work. I went on with my day, came back. I had 7 grand total, right? I mean, obviously with the profit margin or whatever, I think it ended up being more like five or like about 5 or 6 grand profit. But that was still pretty good from only 2 days of work because I was able to outsource to other people, right? I was able, and what was big for me was that I made more money that month from 2 days of work than my full-time job, my 9 to 5. So it gave me supreme confidence in that if anything ever happens with my job, if I'm laid off or if I don't like my job for a particular reason, it gave me that supreme confidence knowing that I can go out there and survive on my own. Right? So if things aren't going well at work, you aren't really into the whole office politics or what have you, or you don't like where the company is going, hey, you know what? I can make it on my own. Right? I can survive. I can pay the bills. I can bring home the bacon. Right? So it gave me that supreme confidence, which goes a long way when you're an entrepreneur trying to start your own venture. Right? So that right there in itself was the biggest thing I learned from being able to turn my passion and hobby of doing videos into a side hustle. Now, the other thing I also learned, ironically, is that this wasn't the business for me that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It's ironic I say that because I learned that this was a service business, meaning that I was exchanging my time for money. Right? So I was charging clients by the hour. I had package services, but meaning that my business would only pay me money if I was working in it. I mean, sure, I could also just outsource it and just hire a bunch of people and just not really have to work in it. But I realized there are other better business ventures out there. So kind of like I ended up doing things like Amazon FBA. I'm doing investing in cryptocurrencies, right? I decided that there are other ways to make money that could be better than this in terms of having passive income, right? Because the best thing to do is to have a business or something that gives you money when you sleep. My video production company brought in money, but I wasn't making money when I wasn't making money while I was sleeping. Not all the time. I still had to film the actual content, right? So this is why I'm very, very bullish on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all these different altcoins out there, right? Because this is one of the biggest ways to make money very, very quickly. Like with these cryptocurrencies, I'm making money as I sleep. I'm making money right now, right? Actually, after this video, I'm going to check my portfolio to see whether it's going up or down, right? But just to kind of give you, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you liked all the content I'm giving you guys. And if you do, make sure you definitely sign up for my 6-figure weekly hacks newsletter, right? So you can definitely sign up. Every single week I give out killer content, in-depth content on how to make money in your 20s, right? So you can sign up for that by just simply texting Ian Balina. That's IANBALINA, no spaces, to the number 44222, right? So 44222. Just text Ian Balina, and that will get you added to my newsletter list where I give you guys killer content on how to make 6 figures and how to blow up. So with that being said, hustle to greatness. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for checking out the show. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, drop a comment and review. Check out my website where I drop game every single week. Check me out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. Let's go out there, make this money. Hustle to greatness.